Okay, picture this. You're on one of the toughest sales calls imaginable. You're trying to sell a disruptive, new technology to a bank. An institution that's literally built to avoid risk at all costs. Today, we're diving into a playbook that cracks that exact problem. Look, this isn't just some sales guide. We're talking about a masterclass in high-stakes strategy. Let's get right into it.
So right off the bat, we're dealing with a huge paradox, right? A bank's entire identity is built on stability, predictability, and just avoiding risk. And here you come, walking in the door, proposing a massive technological leap of faith into the unknown. I mean, how in the world do you bridge a gap that massive?
And the answer? Well, it's all about a massive shift in how you think. You have to realize you're not there to close some deal. You are there to kick off a long-term partnership. The second you make that switch in your head, the entire dynamic changes. And that's the core idea we're going to unpack.
All right, so first up, let's really dig into why this shift is so critically important. Moving from a deal to a partnership isn't just some nice, fluffy idea. In today's subscription-based world, it's pretty much the only way you're going to survive.
You've got the old way of doing things, right? The transactional model, all about the one-time deal, the quick win. But in the world of cloud and software as a service, that approach is just completely obsolete now. Success today is all about long-term value, recurring revenue. If you're still playing that short game, you're already behind.
So what does that mean? It means your whole goal has to change. It's no longer about being the best salesperson in the room. It's about becoming their go-to person, their most trusted advisor. You want to be the one they call for strategic advice, not just the person who sends the bill. That's the transformation we're shooting for.
Okay, but to get to that trusted advisor status, you've got to understand their world inside and out. And that means mapping out the complex internal landscape of a big bank, the internal battlefield, and figuring out who's who has the power, and what actually keeps them up at night. See, here's the thing. You're never just selling to one person. You're trying to navigate this whole web of stakeholders, and they all have competing priorities. The board is worried about legal compliance, while the C-suite is staring at the bottom line. IT is having nightmares about integration, and the chief risk officer is basically paid to say no to anything that smells even a little bit risky. To even have a chance, you basically have to speak 4 completely different languages.
So, okay, you've got all these different people with different priorities. Where do you even start? Where do you focus your energy? Well, a power interest matrix like this one is your strategic map. It tells you exactly where to focus. Your real audience is in that top left box, the board, the CEO, the CIO. They've got both the power and the interest to make things happen. These are the people who can make it happen. They're your champions.
All right, now for the big one, the thing that scares everyone off, the regulatory maze. Most salespeople see this as a giant, insurmountable roadblock. But this playbook shows us how to flip that on its head. What if all those rules aren't a barrier, but actually your secret weapon?
I love this idea. It's so powerful. If you can walk in and prove that you understand their regulatory world better than anybody else, you stop selling a product. You're selling something they want even more: security, peace of mind.
Let's make this real. Take Sri Lanka, for example. The main regulator there is the CBSL, and their rules have this one little detail that's a total game changer. The rules literally make the board of directors personally and legally on the hook for tech risk. That changes everything. Now they have to listen to you.
And here's another great example, one that gets misunderstood all the time. The PDPA, the Data Privacy Act. A lot of people think it forces all data to be stored locally, inside the country. But that's actually not true. It just requires adequate protection, something that big cloud providers are experts at. When you know this detail, you can walk in there and confidently shut down one of their biggest objections right away.
So, how do you actually use all this regulatory knowledge? You show up prepared with a tool, just like this compliance checklist. This one move immediately changes your role from salesperson to collaborative partner. You're not selling at them, you're on their side of the table, working with them to solve their problems. The amount of trust that builds, it's huge.
Okay, so you've built that foundation of trust. You get their world, you get their rules. Now it's time to talk about your solution. But listen, the key, and this is a big one, is you've got to stop talking about features and technology. Nobody cares. Start talking about the business problems you're going to solve for them.
First up, for the C-suite, the CFOs, you're talking their language, money.
You show them how the cloud gets rid of the need for these massive upfront investments in data centers. That's CapEx. Instead, it turns into a flexible operating expense, OpEx, a pay-as-you-go model. Way more efficient, and they'll love that.
Okay, next, for the IT folks and the risk officers, you switch gears. Now you're talking agility and resilience. The cloud gives them the power to scale up resources in an instant when they need them, and because the data is spread across different locations, disaster recovery is just built in. You're basically giving them a way to be faster and safer at the same time, which is usually unheard of.
And then there's the big one, the pitch for the CEO, and is probably the most powerful of all. This isn't just about saving a few bucks or lowering risk. The cloud is the engine for innovation. It's the platform they need to do AI, machine learning, and launch new digital products way faster than their competitors. This is how they stop just surviving and start winning. This is about their future.
Now, even after all that good stuff, the idea of a full-scale migration is just terrifying to a bank. So guess what? You don't ask for that. Instead, you say, hey, let's start small. Let's do a pilot project on something that's not mission critical. This lets you prove the value, build up some fans inside the company, and create the momentum you need to scale up later. It's the perfect low-risk way to get your foot in the door and prove you can deliver. Okay, so let's recap. We've got the mindset, we've mapped the players, we have our value props. Now we need to put it all together into an actual plan you can follow, a clear 3-phase mission to make this thing a reality.
It really breaks down into 3 simple phases. Phase 1, that's your homework phase. Research, intelligence gathering, really digging into their needs. Phase 2 is all about strategy. That's when you pull out that power interest matrix and build your plan of attack. And then, Phase 3 is just go time. Pure execution, with a detailed plan, deadlines, and a way to track your progress.
And you see, all this work, the research, the strategy, the careful execution, it all leads to that final transformation. This isn't just about winning one deal. It's about locking in your role as that absolutely indispensable partner.
You know, this quote really hits the nail on the head. The initial contract, that's not the real victory. The real win is building a relationship that's so strong, so valuable, that it just keeps growing year after year. That's the true measure of success.
So I guess I'll just leave you with this question to think about in your own work. When you walk into these big, high-stakes meetings, are you acting like just another vendor trying to push a product, or are you showing up as a real partner, someone who's genuinely invested in their success for the long haul? Because at the end of the day, your answer to that question is going to define everything.